thank you, everybody who is on here. We're kind of surprised at how many people to say hi with us. I'm Alyssa. This is Kiera. We are two of the people at Table Investments. We miss everybody so much. It's like we're not super used to this whole isolation thing. So we wanted to kind of jump on and give a quick refresher on all things Table Investments, kind of tell you guys like who we are, what we do, why we're in business, and then do a quick rundown on property management in Oklahoma City and kind of what's going on with the crisis. So we started Table, or I guess I started Table like 3 years ago. Primary goal, I guess, with Table is that we would I guess the central place for all things investors. I couldn't find anywhere to find deals, and then when it was time to rehab, I'd go through all the issues with contractors, and then management was this whole other beast. Kind of like, you know, what would it look like to compete like deals, the construction process, and really years, all we did was sales. Kiera, 2 years ago? Yeah, a little over 2 years. Kiera, like my favorite interview I've ever done was Kiera. I think the waiter was for sure like way before we let them go. I forgot to open the chat thing. Yeah, so sorry, we're so new. Somebody asked us to mute everybody. I will totally do that. Audio settings. I do not know how to do this. Kiera, do you? This is what it looks like to come into our office literally every day. Is me just saying, Kiera, let's do this thing now.
Yeah, if everyone will just mute themselves, that'll be helpful.
Yeah, okay, cool. We'll go with that. So anyways, so we got into real estate and investing, and kind of just started on the sales side, and started out by just sourcing deals, and that's really kind of all we did. Our vision was that we would take away as much of the headache as we possibly could before we ever brought an investor to the table. No pun intended. And then once we got sales down, we'd start doing development, start doing management. Once sales really started growing, so I did everything on the acquisition side with our buyers. I obviously got overworked and overloaded. So that's when Kiera kind of jumped in. We did this like hour-and-a-half long interview. And it was kind of intense. Like I just remember looking at her and I was like, we're kind of a brand new company. We don't really have any sales, but we've kind of got the best business in the world. So 10 out of 10, it's probably going to be the hardest thing you've ever done, but it'll be a whole lot of fun. And so she jumped on board and had taken over, I think, my entire book of business within like 9 months, which is kind of killer and overwhelming. I still to this day can't believe she did it. So
it was the hardest year of my life.
Yeah, I would walk by her office sometimes and she would just be sitting at her laptop, like working away, responding to emails with like silent tears.
Just full crying, like, okay, it's hour 13.
Mm-hmm. She went from, I mean, I don't think anybody in our company had real estate experience when they started. Like I read Rich Dad Poor Dad when I was bartending and dropped out and was like, I'm going to be an investor. And I was so poor that I was like, I'll just get my real estate license, figure out how to make money as we go, and then turn that into investment. And she was a bartender too.
Also working for a nonprofit, but really it was a similar story that I read Rich Dad Poor Dad and knew of Alyssa's company and was super inspired by how quickly they were gaining success and how big of a following they had. And really it came down to values. Like I was like, these people are extremely successful and extremely driven, and you become who you surround yourself with. And I've got to be around the level of people that I associate with, like that type of person you are, you know. So I was like, I'll learn about real estate if that's what it takes to be around that type of people.
Yeah, so that was kind of crazy. So that was like 2 years ago. I was going to let her kind of run through what it looks like to be an investor with us, like practically speaking, what is kind of that process and what are we kind of evolving towards and trying to get to? And then if you guys, this is typically where like she has this call like 10 times a day. Like you just walk by her office and at any point you'll hear her kind of giving this like spiel. Typically people have a ton of questions. So if you guys do, feel free to read them and I'll kind of like monitor that and let her know to pay attention.
Yeah. So a lot of you that have worked with us before, you've likely heard this call is kind of what Alyssa was getting at. So if you want to like mute us, take a small nap or something, if you've heard this part before. But I want people that have maybe talked to me once, or maybe we had a buyer's call a year ago that is kind of still gray, or maybe they've talked to 50 providers in the last month. I want them to understand what it is we do and like why it kind of stands out from other options. So I talk to a lot of buyers that it's their first property and they're most comfortable with a turnkey model. So they want someone that's ripped everything down to the studs and everything. It's this perfect, beautiful end product. The flaw there is just that very often you're overpaying. So you're going to end up paying, like I just saw a deal in Oklahoma City by a super reputable turnkey provider that the end product was amazing, but they did pay $5,000 over value. But for some people, that security is worth it, having all the major mechanicals and this beautiful thing. But we did that for a while. Like we've sold properties like that, but people often, they get their feet wet and they get a little more comfortable with the process and they say, I want to make a little more money. So the opposite end of the spectrum is working with a typical real estate agent. And you take on a lot of risk doing that. And, you kind of start looking into different markets and you're Googling investment real estate agent and you're kind of going off of whoever's best marketed themselves as an investor focused real estate agent. You're not really sure if they know investments. You kind of try to get a feel, but based on how confident they are. And they don't have this huge portfolio of, oh yeah, I've done all these deals. They're just like, oh yeah, I know investments. And so you're just crossing your fingers. If you happen to get a great investor focused real estate agent,
take care of them.
Because honestly, I feel like the fear is a lot of investors will kind of run investment focused real estate agents to the ground. They'll be like, do this low offer. And an agent that's putting themselves out there and saying, oh yeah, I'll put in low offers all day. That's an agent that might not be the best agent in the world. It might be an agent that's desperate for business. So just kind of red flags there. But if you do get a great real estate agent that knows investments, the first hurdle you're going to have to jump over is speed. So if you're looking for deals on market, you've got to be able to jump on it the moment it comes out, because not only are you looking at it, but so are the 1,000 other people that have that exact same auto search set up. Their advantage is not only is their agent good, but they've also done 400 deals in that exact market. So they see a good deal, they immediately know it's a good deal. They know the criteria, they know price point, they know that area, they know rent rate, they shoot in an offer immediately and they lock it down before you. If you happen to develop your understanding of the area, or your agent is taking really good care of you, and you can beat all those more experienced agents who lock a property down, the next hurdle that you have to overcome is the seller being reasonable. So very often you get to the property at inspections, or that agent goes for you. Condition is not what was advertised, but you've kind of already prepared for that. Mm-hmm. There are deal breakers though. There's a roof replacement that's going to cost in our market only around $5,000, but still on a $60,000 house, that's a lot. Or foundation piers, or a main water line bust. And so you go back to the seller and you say, hey, condition's super rough, totally fine. I'm even going to take care of the foundation piers, but will you do this roof replacement, or will you do this main water line? And they say, no, I've got 5 backup offers. I take it or leave it. You knew it was as is the whole time. I can't help you. So you just wasted your time. So then you go back to the drawing board and you have to overcome hurdle 1, and then you get to hurdle 2, and then you bust the deal again. And we've even done that several times.
Dude, I mean, for years, that's how I cut my teeth. I worked for this team that was awesome. Like, loved working with them, for them, whatever. But I ultimately just kind of got bored and realized like, wait, I got into real estate to do investing and I'm not doing any of that. So I quit and took this job as an acquisitions manager, but huge demotion, huge pay cut, but I learned so much because basically I was just a glorified intern, like kind of like what she's saying. The guy would be like, hey dude, this thing popped up on the MLS, go get it under contract. And it was my job to be like, okay, cool. I'm dropping my whole day for this like shit house in Northeast Oklahoma City that's $15,000 that
recently had a fire.
Yeah, or it's like literally only for sale because somebody got shot in the front yard. Like I feel super secure doing this. But so I got so frustrated with that process that I was like, there has to be a better way to do this whole thing. And I don't know what that looks like, but I know that this is not like the cream of the crop. Like we can way for sure do better. So yeah, I mean, it's real. And some people love that. Like if you love the hustle and the grind and like the constant kind of tension of like, is it going to work? Is it going to work? Like on market is super, super good for that. If you don't love that and you're super conservative, turnkey is really, really great for that. We're kind of deal agnostic. Our main focus is building the infrastructure and the foundation so that we can be a company that actually grows with our clients, instead of just being like, oh no, you've tapped out with us. So thank you so much for investing 4 years in Oklahoma City, but you've got to go find a new team and kind of start over now that you're willing to grow and expand.
Yeah, that's a really good point, is that and that is a reason why so many people love us, is that we're not committed to one way to make you money. Like if there are good turnkey deals, we'll sell those and then we can take care of those people. Right now it makes the most sense for us to do this kind of hybrid model that we'll explain in a second. But if you do, like if you become that person that's like, I know this market, I know what a good deal looks like, I'm going to find a good deal on market, you can take care of you in that way. It's just not what, it's not the easiest way. Yeah. And it's not what a lot of first-time investors want to do. Probably develop this other model.
Yeah. You want to talk about how that's changing?
Yeah. So the option, or like the option that we created and isn't this on market fight, is what we call existing rentals. So and pursuing those off market. So we have all of the systems in place to make it really, really simple for you. And what that looks like is all of those hurdles that you have to cross, we cross before you ever even see the deal. So when a seller pitches properties to us, instead of us finding out after you get your contract at inspections how rough it is, we've already verified that condition. So to kind of walk step by step, seller pitches properties to us, we shoot back prices. If things look good, it looks like they're going to have good numbers for our buyers, then we go and start checking out the properties. So we do full walkthroughs, only really what the eye can see, but it's us kind of factoring out like hey, this house is totally distressed. We're actually going to drop the price we said that you should ask for by $20,000. Like we filter out all the crap essentially. Instead of guessing rent rates, we're verifying them because we're getting a copy of the lease. And then with those numbers in mind, we're plugging in maintenance, and we walk through and kind of get a feel for how much maintenance should be plugged into the numbers. And then we negotiate the price down to the lowest possible point based really on that condition in the area, etc. So we get price locked down, we get your rate of return locked down, we get a new set of photos, copy of the lease, and then we have a hard conversation with the seller. We say, this is absolutely not as is. Like our whole thing is to make everything simple for everyone involved. So do not waste our time. We are going to bring you roof replacements. We are going to bring you foundation piers. You don't have to, but if we start bringing you contracts or bringing you repair requests and you make it tough, we're not going to work with you anymore. So let's just cut the relationship here. If they seem agreeable to that, then we send you the deal. So you've got the purchase price, the rate of return, the set of photos, and we're doing that's new, which I'm excited about. And several of you that haven't worked with us before might not even know that this is coming yet. But before you get under contract, we're also going to start having the full inspection report and the contractor's bid with every single item. So what the process will look like now is you review a deal, you love it, you request an inspection report from us, you look through it, and you say, as long as I'll gladly accept this $80,000 purchase price, as long as the seller will do all of the items that you have listed over $500, I'll take care of all that small stuff. We send in that request at the same time as your contract, so you never even get past the seller signing and you signing without knowing he's going to agree to all of your terms. So you waste no time, you waste no inspection money, nothing.
Yeah, we're pretty pumped about it. We kind of sat down, when was it? I don't know. We've been working on this for like months, trying to figure out, we kind of figured out and wrote down like every step of every part of our process on all these sticky notes, which is hard. I hate paper. So it's kind of painful, but we basically sat down and had every person on our team be like, okay, if you could reimagine this, like budget wasn't an issue and whoever our clients were weren't an issue, like if you could do whatever you wanted, what would this process look like? And so we were super proud for years, with investors, like a fallout rate of like 50, 60% on contracts. And that was normal. So we were super proud when we got it down to like 5%. But it was still hard. Like I'm a perfectionist and nothing's ever good enough. You guys should totally mute if you think about it and have a second to tap it. But we got to that like final 5%. I was like, dude, but there's still these people paying for inspections and appraisals. Like, where is our fallout coming from? And most of it was either appraisals getting funky, which is always so hard for me when it gets sideways because a tenant moves in that's making it look worse. But anyways, appraisals going funky or and just like a misalignment of inspections, like we have this conversation with the seller and either they forget or downplay it or what, or just a buyer comes in and is like, cool, I'm so glad you had that conversation, but like not good enough for me. My expectations are here and you guys only negotiated to here. Mm-hmm. So our goal, I'm trying to think of what all we did. Like we're going to start doing all of the insurance quotes. And reworking our performas. And obviously those aren't going to be 100%. We're just going to run them off of my information, but that'll at least get you closer to a ballpark because we had a couple issues with that. The inspection report will be done. We'll be able to negotiate that up on the front end. We were able to, I was so proud of this one. Section 8 has been a beast because you call them and want to verify information and they kind of are just like, we do not care about you. We do not care what your situation is. You do not own the house and we're not going to help you. So we have finally figured out a way where we can get the information from the seller on the front end and then without crossing any like legal or ethical boundaries, get the information we need from Section 8. So that's verified because we'd have owners give us a lease for $1,000 and then we'd get like a week before closing and we'd get the Section 8 packet showing like, we declined that lease and only did this at $950. Not the end of the world, but also still kind of a disappointment. So we're super excited for all of that. It'll be super fun. Is there anything else we're changing?
I think just a big help with having that inspection report up front, just on, I guess, really the part that I'm most excited about is we get so many new buyers that are like, oh, cool. Yeah, I understand that this house has not been fully ripped down to the studs. I understand a tenant has lived there for 3 years. I understand we're going to have a list of repairs we're going to ask the seller for. And we're going to only ask them for the big stuff because we're being reasonable buyers and they're being reasonable sellers. But then they get a list of like 10 items and it's panic. It's like, oh my God, I'm buying a shit house. What am I doing? This is my first property. Oh my God, I'm buying someone else's problem. Now you have that inspection report up front and we can talk through it before you feel all of this pressure that, oh my God, I've made a mistake. It's like, oh, I didn't know that this is what an inspection report would be like. Let's talk about this. Then you feel comfortable. Then you commit. So it's just like, I'm so excited.
Yeah, it's fun. We've been working on it forever. It was just like we get to the place where we're like, oh my gosh, okay, we're rolling this out. We have all these properties. And then it was like coronavirus. So we're all working from home and self-quarantining. And so it's super great time. We're super excited for all the opportunities to practice patience. It's kind of been brutal. Do you guys have any questions about that or changes? Or like while we're changing so much, is there anything from the investor perspective that you're like, dude, you should totally do this. It would make my life like way freaking easier. And it's cool. I don't ever know what to do with this part. Like when you ask a question and you're just waiting to see if anybody replies. Okay. Nobody's asked a question.
Hey guys, I have a question.
Okay.
You knew I'd ask a question, right?
Influencers video all the time. We know exactly.
Could you guys go into a little bit more detail on the market? What has changed? What hasn't changed?
Yeah.
Where you see it going in the next 2 months, 6 months? I'm not going to ask you any further.
Yeah, totally.
Up to 6 months.
So the short answer is we don't know. Just because this is also unprecedented, like I've tried to be very careful. Like I really do take it seriously that there are people that are listening to the conversations that me and Kiera have and are making buying decisions based on like, frankly, our opinion. So right now I talk to my attorney typically about once a week to figure out from like a legal perspective what we need to be doing to protect our owners. And then I've got 2 different people who are just kind of like research and data geeks. And like typically about every other day, they're sending me kind of a quick briefing on like, hey, this is what the White House is saying. This is what our governor is saying. Here's how it may affect your owners. So there's the caveats on where any of our information is coming from. Overall, Oklahoma is known for not going up really, really high and not falling out really, really low. And so one of our struggles, candidly, on the sales side, and this is where I always get in trouble because, like, I don't know how, like, I haven't done sales in so long. So I feel like I should be doing a better job of, like, being rah-rah, but, like, candidly, like, we have all these people coming to us from the investment side, and they're like, I'm going to wait on fallout. I'm going to wait on the fallout. I'm going to wait on the bottom out. And I just, like, I looked at Kiera the other day, and I was like, well, but they invest in Oklahoma because we're a like solid and stable market, not necessarily because we're going to like, we didn't rise 20 and 30% whenever the coasts were doing it for the past several years. So we're not going to fall out 20 or 30% either. So for the most, so like from an acquisition perspective, the opportunity right now and kind of like probably between now and the end of the year is about as good as it's going to get. I could be wrong. Like, you know, I may be like eating my words in 11 months. We'll see. But for the most part, Oklahoma is known for not having fallout. So you're going to see sellers be more willing to meet you with like creative financing. You may see more concessions be thrown out. So like closing costs or more like incentives or more extensions on closing. Like sellers will get a little nervous, but for the most part, our sellers are not going to be so distressed that they're just going to let things go for pennies on the dollar. Mm-hmm. So like on the acquisition and sales side, that's kind of what you're looking at. On the management side, it has done everything. And I don't know if everybody on this call knows. So we opened up property management in-house, I think like 6 months ago. We've grown really slowly. So like we're only accepting people who are either current or past clients of Table at this point. Just because management is a beast. But with management, I really thought that we were going to get to the 1st and 2nd of the month, and it was just going to be this huge fallout. Nobody paid rent, getting yelled at by everybody. And so far, as of yesterday morning, or was it this morning? My days are kind of blurring together, but I checked and we were at 6% of our tenants so far can't pay rent and have verified that. And like that's a little skewed because some of the tenants who told us they can't pay rent have paid for April. They're just letting us know, hey, if production doesn't get picked back up, like I don't have enough in savings to pay for May. So I thought that tenants not paying rent would be a whole lot harder, but obviously if this keeps going, that's going to become more and more common. So, I actually oddly on Instagram, I had somebody, I had sent some dumb thing out on my story and somebody was like, hey, I'm a landlord. And I kind of went to all my tenants and told them, you can either pay by, you know, like the first 5 or 10 days of the month or whatever it was. And I'll drop your rent by $150, which seemed like super generous to me. But if you wait and need to do some type of like amortized payment, like we're going to charge you the full rent rate. But really we work with, because we're deal agnostic, I've got guys that we work with that are like 26 years old. They bought their very first investment property. So covering the mortgage is going to be really hard on them. And then I've got pretty heavy hitters that really are hardly going to blink or lose any sleep at all if their tenant, you know, doesn't pay rent. So for that reason, like we kind of went to all of our tenants and we're not, actually, we didn't go to them. We made the decision that we're not going to reach out to any of our tenants. The burden is on them to reach out to us and let us know that they're facing financial hardship. If they do reach out, we're letting them know that we need some type of written documentation from their employer, letting us know they've either been laid off, their hours have been cut, but basically document some type of proof, because we don't know. I'm trying to watch the releases on like the forbearance programs. I don't know what you guys are going to need if you manage with us to get your mortgage stuff reworked. So we're doing our best to get documentation, make sure all of our communication with tenants is in writing. That way, if you guys need anything, we're kind of prepared for it. But we didn't make a company policy on how we're going to handle tenants because we wanted our owners to kind of have flexibility from that perspective. Leasing has been a total, like absolutely insane. It's been so busy. I don't know if it's that everybody's home and bored and not taking the virus seriously, or if it's that, I don't know what it is, but we are leasing things in like record time. Greater implications of the economy. We've been watching everything that's going on with oil and gas. I got a couple things in my inbox today. Full disclosure, I haven't read them yet, but I saw that oil prices skyrocketed. Somebody just asked, how's your local economy been affected by what's going on with the price of oil? Isn't Oklahoma City economy heavy on oil? So two answers to that. Yes, our economy is fairly oil and gas. It's not as much as people think it is, though. And I'm so used to doing this over email, so I'm used to saying, like, I can email you a link that has, like, our top 10 employers. You know them better than I would at this point. It's like Mercy, Boeing, Hobby Lobby, 2 oil and gas companies. What am I missing?
Tinker.
You guys get the point.
The state.
Yeah. Medical research and education is up there. So there's a couple companies that are obscure and you wouldn't know them. So yes, we're affected by oil and gas, but it's more, it's not like, oil and gas goes down and all of our major employers are suddenly out of business and our economy is tanked. It's more so these companies are used to running on pretty wide margins, and all of a sudden that margin goes down. So people's bonuses go down, the incentives that they're getting from employers go down. So it's like the extracurricular spending. Like right now you'll see, like with the Thunder or whatever, the NBA, I don't watch basketball or really care, but from like a spending perspective, like if you go when oil and gas is really good, you'll see those people like buy out all the suites and the boxes around the stadium. And then like right now it's more like Cox Communications and those types of things. So with oil and gas, yes, it's a major part of our economy, and with the caveat that it's more of like a trickle-down effect that you'll notice other parts of the economy are more heavily impacted. There's some Astracal is going to get on here and be like, well, technically, there are so many caveats to this. The part of the economy from a real estate perspective that we see most impacted is new construction. And then it's roughly $300,000 in the suburbs. As those people move down into cheaper houses or go into cheaper rentals, there just aren't people above them moving down as well, or at least there's not as many of them. So we typically don't suggest doing newer construction rentals right now. Beyond that, I've seen it teeter both ways, honestly, with oil and gas, and how like it feels like it's hard to trust the news, and then when you do see news, it feels like it's changing like every 4 days. Historically, Oklahoma recovers really quickly from oil and gas, but like also historically, coronavirus wasn't in the picture. We don't 100% know how that'll affect interest rates. I wish we would have had Aaron on. Is he on? Aaron Chapman? Nope. Okay, we should have had him go on.
Yeah.
Do you have a weigh-in on interest rates? We've done more on.
It's just changed. Like it's changed rapidly. Like, I'm sure you guys have kind of kept a tab, but I guess even our national lenders, like they dropped really drastically and they've kind of slowly climbed back up because there was so much demand from them dropping. So that's where we were the last time we checked. I didn't get a rate today though.
Okay. Somebody asked if there was no coronavirus, what do you project in the way of price appreciation? Oklahoma, you're not going to see a whole lot of it. you'll see like spikes. If you want to play the appreciation game, you really shouldn't do it in Oklahoma. But if you are dead set on like Oklahoma all the way, we can force appreciation in parts of the city. Like if you want to buy, I personally buy houses kind of around the state capitol, and then in Capitol Hill. I don't go to those parts of town after about 7 o'clock at night unless I've got my husband with me. And then I always make sure I have some type of weapon with me when I go. We don't typically show.
She carries a knife.
Yeah. I'm super intimidating. People just see my blonde hair and are like, wow, don't mess with her. Like, so if you're willing to go to those areas and kind of deal with some headaches, we can force appreciation, but you're not going to see it like Seattle, Portland, LA, even some parts of the Midwest. Like, you're not going to see it. Does that help with your question about appreciation, or were you looking for something more particular than that?
Like generally we factor 3%, and that kind of varies. Like that's the average. If you move into maybe a more exciting area, like today we sent out that on market duplex, appreciation is probably more likely there to be a little bit higher than 3%. Or if you're just south of the river in that kind of high risk area, very similar to the area that she outlined outside of the Capitol, then there's a little bit, that little street might blow up and you might see a little bit more there sooner rather than later, or you might see it long term. But on average, I would put 3% into any numbers that you ran.
No. What other questions do you guys have? You can chat them or ask them, whatever.
And I do want to say, I feel like most of the people on here know this, but as far as oil and gas and like our renters, I would be shocked if I walked in and a tenant was like, oh my God, oil is down. Like I would not. We're in C-class rentals. Like we're like with essential workers. Like,
I should talk about that. We have a lot of people like go Section 8 right now. So many people are so scared of Section 8 or like homeless alliance or subsidized income of any sort. All my guys with Section 8 are like, all the way, baby. We're so cool right now and not sweating it a bit. I mean, it has its pros and cons for sure. It's not that it's like this cakewalk, but like you get your money every month. And candidly, like now that I've done management, tenants are tenants. Like they're all hard. Unless you are in like premium A class, your B and your C minus are honestly not that different. Mm-hmm. And again, somebody's going to come on here with some statistic and like prove me wrong. But are the homes listed on your website on the MLSs as well? No, they're not. If they're on our website, they're totally off market. So we represent this, somebody else on our team represents the seller. And then Kiera works with all of our buyers. They really do. We've thought about like putting it, like videoing it because they battle it out like every Monday.
Yeah. Like I'm like yelling at one of my closest friends because I'm like, no, we're not budging on. We're literally not. And then Alyssa's like, I give you 30 seconds, figure it out, or you have to figure it out in email. And I'm like, this is why I care. Like, so there's definitely clear division. Yeah.
Yeah. So if it's on the MLS, we can help you with it. But if it's in-house, that's kind of what it looks like. Somebody works with the seller, Kiera works with the buyer, and then we meet up every Monday to kind of work through anything that can't be resolved over email. What have been your sellers' reactions to the current economic environment? So cool. This whole thing has totally taken me by surprise. I thought for sure we were going to wake up and all of our sellers are going to be like, we're out, we're done, we're holding firm, we need the passive cash flow. Like, because we work with really smart dudes. I mean, they own like 60 houses for a reason. Like they're in a good financial position. So I thought for sure we were going to wake up and have all of our inventory gone. And every single one of them has been like, nah, we're good, keep going. So that was super surprising to me. What is the forecast population increase in Oklahoma City over the next few years? I don't know the answer to that, but I can do you know who that is? Do we have their email?
I'm sure, yeah.
Oh yeah, you're on here because you're on our email list. Yeah. I'll make a note and email it to you because I know where to find that information, but I don't know off the top of my head. Will those rents decrease in a recession for Section 8? Depends on how bad the recession is. Usually Section 8 is one of the very, very, very last things that experiences any type of budget cuts. So it depends on how bad this all gets. Normally in Oklahoma, we don't get to a place where, I mean, like if you get to a point where you're cutting budgets to like affect somebody's housing,
like the highest risk population, like to cut their means of living. I would be shocked. I'd be shocked.
It just doesn't happen. And I'm saying that with the small caveat that we have no clue how long this virus is really going to carry out. I mean, I honestly thought it, like, if I'm being so honest, I thought it was a media stunt at the beginning and was like,
she was one of those people.
I was like, this is a joke. Like, it'll all be wrapped up as soon as they make their point. We're going to be done with it. Fun fact, it's real. So I don't know.
Morton's like, yeah, I haven't left my house in 4 months. Okay.
I was texting one of my friends in New York and he was like, if I hear one more person say that this thing is not real, like I am living in a 700 square foot apartment with my boyfriend and we want to kill each other. It has to be real. So I don't know. Short answer without all the rambling is it would have to it's low on the totem pole for Section 8 to experience budget cuts. I don't think we'll get to that point, but if this thing stays around for 6 or 8 months, it's kind of anyone's bet. Wow, you're all asking questions. It makes me feel so good. To think there's going to be more opportunity to find rehabable, is that a word, properties given the current climate? Oh, do we think that there will be more opportunity? Yeah, I think there will probably be. I'm really hoping it's going to be compounded by, I've been watching this bill that might make wholesaling illegal. So I'm really hoping that we're going to have this like perfect storm of more distressed properties like what you're asking for in conjunction with, wholesalers not being there to like drive those prices up. That's a little bit of a pipe dream. I mean, the bill is still several weeks out from even being presented. The only caveat there is that like we are never going to see the crazy returns that you guys who live on the coasts are used to seeing. Like I was listening to this webinar that was like, hey, you can flip a house and make $90,000. Like that's not ever going to happen in Oklahoma City, but there will be more houses where you can make a modest return. So there's that one. And then if you had one life vest on the Titanic, would you give it to Curtis or Kiera? D, none of the above. I would give it to Sherry. Sherry is the most underpraised, undervalued person. She's one of the co-founders of the company. She is, our company would not be what it is without Sherry. I would give up.
Answer. It's a safe answer.
I would ditch my life vest and be like, Sherry, I'm going down. You got this. So Sherry, 10 out of 10 out of 10 gets all the life vests. She gets whatever she wants. Can you do Section 8 with multifamily? Yes, you can. Because the way Section 8 works is the tenant goes to Section 8 and is like, hey, I need help paying rent. And Section 8 vets them and goes through a process. As a landlord, you are just telling the tenant whether you will accept the government paying rent for them or not. The only thing you have to go through as a landlord is the inspection that Section 8 does semi-regularly. So you're not going to see Section 8 come in and be like, hey, we're giving you this huge contract on 15 units. You're just going to accept 15 different tenants who are approved through Section 8. We're not social distancing, and I knew we would get at least one person say that. I will say the caveat that who have you seen other than Kenny?
I've only seen two. I've only seen Callie and Kenny. I've seen 2 people. And Tim. Yeah. Three.
You're gonna be like and.
That's it. But they've probably seen people. So.
What about rent appreciation? So a lot of people disagree with me on this one too. I am generally not a huge fan of increasing rents on my tenants because I would rather have low vacancy. So I will give my answer to that. I've talked to a couple of property management friends this week. We do think that rent rates will overarchingly probably go up. They tightened guidelines for lending in the last couple of weeks. It may have been this week. Basically, the credit score that you have to have in order to qualify for a loan went up. So between that and then people being out of work and not wanting to make these huge financial commitments, there will probably be more people renting, which will naturally drive the price up. With the caveat that I don't like being super, super aggressive with that. I like to price a little low and have the ability to kind of cherry pick what tenants I want and get the best one and then lock them in for a little longer.
And I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like culturally here, like a rental increase annually is not normal or expected. Like if you're a great tenant, I mean, I do definitely know people that they're like, oh yeah, I had my little rental increase this year. Yeah. But for the most part, I would say, especially in C class, you're not going to see if you come to them and say, hey, you pay $50 a month now, they'll say, oh, well, there's other places I could go. Mm-hmm. So you just incentivize this person isn't moving out. I don't have to pay turnover costs. I'm going to keep them. I'm not even drop their rent $5 or give them $25 off at Christmas because I don't want them to move out for another year. So that's more the angle we take.
We did that. I think Gordon and Sharon are actually on here. They gave us that idea this year. They were like, hey, will you give all of our tenants like $25 or whatever? It was crazy how much loyalty that built, like $20 or maybe it was 25. I can't remember, but the tenants were so unbelievably grateful. So typically I like to go to tenants and be like, you can either sign on at another year at your current rate, or if you don't, we're raising rent by like 10% or whatever is appropriate. And I like to make it steep enough that they'll sign in or sign on for another year. Horton let us know that somebody literally died in his building yesterday. It's devastating.
Horton, did they die or were they diagnosed? Oh, death. He did the death signal. Okay. Well, I'm sorry about that.
Okay, so I noticed on the projections, Kiera has been on me about this for like 3 weeks. She's like, Alyssa, I hope you feel shame.
This has been so frustrating.
So I noticed on the projections that some of the properties listed assume 8% management and some are 10. Are all those in-house management? Are some Section 8 and some... Okay, so on management, the company that we have partnered with forever charges 8%. We charge 10%. There's some of you that are on this call that were kind of our guinea pigs in the beginning that we called and were like, hey, if you want to come in, it's going to be real bumpy. I know I'm good at communication. I've got a killer attorney, but like, don't super know what we're doing. Yeah. So those people are super grandfathered in. Now that we're figuring it out, management, I love hard things. Like, I love to figure out a puzzle. Management is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. It is like, my phone is recording or I would read it. I got this text message today that was just like, my crew's literally saying we can't go to this house because the tenant is so violent. And he has explicitly told us we are going to do all we can to make table property management's entire existence the hardest we can, like, we are going to be the hardest tenants you've ever had, just out of principle. So we want to provide really good service and just can't do that at a discounted rate. So performas will all reflect in-house. The tension is that I like things to be uniform, which they're not because of this conversation right here. We kept going on a wait list for management. Like, we'd take people on and then I would be like, hey, we're at capacity. We need to do some training and get some systems. And so we would not take anybody on and then run the performance at 8% because that's what the company we're partnered with does. So if you go with people that we're partnered with, they've been in business like 20 years. They have like 1,000 units,
1,500, I think.
1,500. Yeah. I don't know anymore. They have a lot of units and they've got a huge staff with all the departments and it's all very official. They've created enough systems that they can do it super streamlined and they're a little bit cheaper if you do it in-house because you love all things to be kind of under one roof. We are a little bit more expensive, but we do check in every Friday and then we do go by the houses every four times every year. And like quarterly, we task ourselves to automatically ask for rental updates if you're with Section 8 or Homeless Alliance, or I want to be able to be super, super proactive with management, and it's hard. So that's kind of the philosophy there. Is larger. Oh, go ahead.
Well, so basically, in summary, eventually all of our performers will likely reflect our 10%. It's just until we can consistently tell every single person that purchased a property that we could take them on, we were cautious in doing that big switch.
Yeah. Kiera's better at consolidating. I get rambly. Is larger multifamily on the table in the future as your clients grow? I would love nothing more. It's like doing development and big projects is kind of my absolute dream and what I, before coronavirus, what I thought I was really going to get to develop out this year. Our construction crews know how to do that. So like from that side of things, yes, we can do it. I have not looked up the statistic myself, but somebody on our team has told me several times that less than 2% of the housing in Oklahoma is multifamily. And then every single, like I listened to 4 different either webinars or podcasts today. every single one of them was pushing multifamily. Like if we're in the middle of a crisis, go to multifamily. So what's hard is like we don't really have any inventory, and then the inventory we do have, whether it's a good deal or not, it's getting snatched up because that's kind of what's being pushed on all the podcasts. So I would love nothing more than to do it. I just don't see that. I don't see the numbers making sense, especially I know that you like not tight numbers. And so I don't see the deal having enough juice to be worth it to you.
And it's just like the demand is so high that a seller knows that they can go and get way over what makes sense to most investors. And we're just not going to send you bad deals. Like we're not going to go and be like, oh yeah, here's a 10-plex at a 4% cap rate.
Which is what it looks like right now.
Yeah. So we're not going to waste your time with super, super low numbers. But if we get to them and someone's willing to take on the convenience of working with us and sell at a reasonable return, then sure, we'll send them to you. It's just, it happens like once a year right now is the realistic answer.
And what about commercial?
I have a really good referral. I don't do enough with commercial to tell you for sure. I don't know, but I have somebody she's hardcore, and when I send you to her, she will basically ask for a blood sample.
Yeah. She's like, literally, give me a screenshot of your bank account.
But she is so
Another type.
Her name's Monica. I don't even know her last name. She's just one of those women that just goes by Monica. Like she's tall and just walks into a room and you notice her. So I don't think I've ever learned her last name. Anyways, we've sent a lot of people to her and she does a really good job. I just don't know enough. Somebody asked, if leasing is so crazy, wouldn't you think you'd be able to raise rents? Yeah. So we have been raising rents on the initial lease up. Like we had a property. So like this is an example. We had a 5-plex that we struggled to, like the owner couldn't get it leased. So he transferred management over to us, and I think he had been trying to lease them at like $550 a unit. They're just little like 1-bedroom studios, and we got those under at like $595. We had a couple houses that we had high enough demand that we were able to inch rent like the lease rate up over like $30 a month more. So right now we're totally going all in and taking as much as we can from that. I just don't know how long that's going to last. So if someone picks a house to buy today, what is the process it looks like from that point?
So you've looked over like everything on the website. You decide it's a go. All you do is request a contract from me. So I'll write the contract. You sign that, and you sign that within 24 hours of me sending it to you. So from the moment that you say, I want this, I can hold it for 24 hours. At that time, you've got to sign and you've got to send me a pre-qualification to show me that I'm holding it for someone that is serious about the property. If you do sign, you send me that pre-qual, then we're just waiting for the seller to sign. Once we have that executed contract, we pass you off. So this is kind of the second half of our why people like working with us is it's all super streamlined. So we
Could you say it again, please?
Siri's asking me what's up. So we pass you off to Sherry, Sherry or Kenny. We've got a new transaction coordinator for those of you that have worked with us forever.
Kenny, when we did his like 90-day, like, hey, you've been with us, you made the cut. I was like, what's been frustrating for you, like about joining us? Like, what's been the hardest thing? He was like, literally, I spend all day living in Sherry's shadow. Like, Sherry, I get it. Sherry's great. I'll never be as good as Sherry. It's like, I'm so sorry. You probably...
You might not. Yeah, no, he's so good.
Mm-hmm.
But so when we pass it to Sherry or Kenny, they handle literally everything for you.
Which is good because Kiera and I are chatty salespeople, not details people. And if it were up to us...
Yeah, things would get missed and deadlines might not. It's a little risky. So with Sherry and Kenny, those are like the type of people that notice when you move something on their desk. They're like that type of person. So everything, your whole file gets passed off to them, and they just get to work with making sure that every single part of the process is going to hit a deadline. So they talk with the title company, they talk with your lender, they get all of your inspections set up.
They literally do everything, and then every Friday they send you an email that's like, hey, this is what happened this week. And if we need something from you, here's what it is.
Oh, yeah. And also what I was thinking of is the insurance advisor. They connect with the insurance advisor. So then all you're doing is waiting for inspections. She's already set everything up and you're just chatting with the insurance advisor, deciding on what you're going to do. And you're waiting for me to get back to you with inspection report. And then when we get the inspection report back, we work through it line by line, decide what to ask the seller for. That's what it's going to look like for like the next 2 weeks. In the future, we are going to, you decide like, hey, I love this property. Me and you are going to look at the inspection report and we're going to decide, okay, what should we ask the seller for? So then we send in contract and all of our repair requests and just wait for the seller to respond. Once the seller responds and agrees to what you request, that's when that thing happens where we pass everything off to Sherry. And then all we have to do is wait for appraisal.
Yeah. So that's kind of the process. What's the waiting period for a new landlord to start receiving their Section 8 rent payments? Okay, so I'm going to tell you the canned answer, and then I'll give you the real one. The answer that we tell people when they ask that question is plan on waiting 2 months, possibly 3, because sometimes that, like around the holidays, early parts of the summer, Section 8 does not care, like at all, about Alyssa Dyer or Kiera Underwood. Like, get in line. We'll get to you when we get to you. So generally, the way that Section 8 works is like, so right now we're in April. So if I get everything to them by April 15th, if they're not backlogged, you're going to start getting payments by May. But Section 8 is backlogged all the time. So the reality is if we get everything in by the 15th of April, you're probably realistically going to start receiving payments by June 1st. It auto deposits into your bank account. They'll email you. Actually, they don't email you. They paper mail you. Any updates, inspection, whatever they need from you, they'll mail it to you, but it just auto deposits by the 5th, typically 2 months after you buy it. Does the 10% include the property inspections, et cetera, or is there a list of other management things you charge for? No. So if you evict, any like sheriff or clerical fees you pay for, but I hate nickel and diming. I hate it. I hate getting nickel and dimed. It drives me crazy. So I would rather just charge 10%. Like if we have to send a piece of certified mail or if we have to go post a notice at the tenant's door, we're just going to do that. And your bank account is not going to like hear about it at all. If we have to process an eviction and we have to, spend 3 hours at the courthouse or whatever, that would never happen. But whatever work we have to do is included in that 10%. You're only going to be charged like the $130 to literally have the sheriff go knock on the door and pull the tenants out of there if we get to that point. And then a lease up fee for like, oh, we had to go find a new tenant, but we typically just prefer to get somebody re-signed on the lease and keep vacancy down.
So essentially you might pay fees to like third-party providers for something, or of course your maintenance, but you're never paying us little things for like us going and doing those full evaluations on the property or us helping you position at turnover. You're not paying us extra for those things. You're literally paying when we put a new tenant in place.
Yeah, it's like, I know we lost a contract to somebody else and somebody else was willing to do it at 6%. And I would struggle with these conversations because I don't ever want to go to the client and be like, hey, but did you notice? But then I looked at the contract later and I was like, you have no idea. Like they're charging an upcharge every time they have to send certified mail. They were charging a trip charge every time they had to go to the house. So those things happen a lot. Like it's overwhelming. I seriously think if anybody would have told me how much work it was to manage properties, I wouldn't have done it.
But I love that she does it because our buyers want it. I'm like, oh, it's all in house. Yeah, we do everything.
I think I've cried more in the last 4 months than my entire life. Like I had these guys that have been, they're like tried and true, been with tables since they came
before me.
They have been around forever. And they have this, he's on the call right now. They have this 8-plex that every time I had to call him, I was like, I swear to God, I'm good at my job. I swear that this is not me. So, we ended up we're repositioning it and just kind of starting from scratch. But I was just like, I am not used to this. So it's crazy. So you do go out to the properties a whole lot. So just be careful if you do go with somebody who charges you, one-off fees. I actually got my first payment within a month of closing, but I'd always heard 2 to 3 months from the table team. You sometimes do get it sooner for sure. Mm-hmm. I hope that everybody gets it sooner. Christmas, if you buy a house between Thanksgiving and the end of the year, they don't care because they get time off for Thanksgiving, time off for Christmas, time off for New Year's. And there was something else that I didn't even know that they got time off for, but the offices are literally just closed. And Section 8 does not work from home, like at all. Like Tina does not care. Aaron
and
Chapman,
also Corona. There'll be delays with Corona.
Yeah, for sure. Aaron Chapman is suggesting the single family will be the biggest demand. I agree with him. And all of my information around that is coming secondhand from webinars. I haven't looked at any data myself, but I do think there will be more and more people who are opting into renting instead of purchasing, or who are forced to because something happens with their financial position so they can't secure loans.
I bet Aaron's saying it from like a health perspective. Like there's going to be a demand from a rental perspective for people not to live in multifamily.
Yeah. And he makes money off of single family. More than no, everyone's like, then, somebody said give yourself some credit. Thank you, Phil. So do you guys, I think we covered everything that we had, and I definitely want to be respectful of everybody's time. I know that you guys are busy and have other stuff. Do you guys have other questions, or did we kind of cover everything? Oh, somebody, what do you guys do for maintenance? Do you have in-house people or certain contractors that we use? Okay, so I've actually talked about this a lot lately. We work with the same crews across the board. I've learned the hard way more times. It's embarrassing how many times I had to learn it the hard way. Forever, I thought customer service meant like doing whatever whoever wants you to do whenever they ask you to do it. And a lot of that revolves around crews. I have watched so many of my clients and friends just get burned because I didn't have the backbone to tell them, like, no, I won't work with your crews. And if I would have just held firm on my crews, my clients would have never been in the positions that they were, because even the best contractors just have this way of kind of slipping away from you. So when it comes to all things maintenance, we work with a team that's been in business for like 20 years, I think. They are amazing. Phenomenal. They actually have systems for invoicing and billing. They actually have warranties that they honor. They get out to our houses. We don't charge any markup to use them. So we meet with them about every 90 days and just kind of do like a run through on how our systems have changed, how theirs have changed, and then what we need to tweak to work better a little bit. They've got several different crews lined out. So they've got their licensed and insured guys. So if you need to like get a new HVAC, replace a plumbing line, do anything like that, they totally can, and they can pull permits. But if you're management and you just have a tenant who's like, I literally just spent, I was so annoyed. A tenant popped a little metal piece off of his door, and I thought he was saying his lock was broken, not that. But if it is something small like that, we're not going to send out a licensed maintenance guy to screw a little piece of metal into the door. We're just going to pay the hourly guy who, can fix it for your tenants. Only caveat to that is if it is something bigger, like if you're having to replace the full plumbing line or that 8-plex that I was just talking about. I mean, I think I had like 4 different plumbers go out to that house before it was all said and done. And I've had 2 different GCs and then like dealt with the city planning. So it's all going to be with our crews. We're typically just going to get one bid. We're not going to mark up the bid. I've worked with my guys enough that I trust them. And we just really ask our clients to like kind of lean on us, borrow our trust, and trust our crews, because it's just not worth it to like turn and burn through whoever you can find on Google.
And there's kind of like an intangible as far as their customer service or their relation, how they treat our tenants is really huge. Like you might underestimate how hard it is to keep tenants happy when you're coming into their house 4 times in the month that their house is being sold. And like they go above and beyond to keep people comfortable and to have just like amazing customer service that you don't see from contractors. Like, it goes a long way with keeping that tenant happy and you having low vacancy.
Yeah. So we work exclusively with our crews. They can do everything. So we've got skeleton crews that just do small maintenance stuff. And then they're working on some bigger projects right now that I wish so badly I had more time. They bought one of the old historic schools and are redeveloping that into condos. Super fun. I was supposed to be able to like go in and have equity on the deal and kind of work on it with them, but management kicked my ass. And so I had to kind of put everything on hold except figuring out how to wrangle these tenants. So if you get to a place where you want to do bigger developments like that, like they secured a bunch of historic and then opportunity zones. So they got like $1.3 million worth of free money I don't know a whole lot about how that happened, but they do a really good job of kind of doing the hire and stuff. If you guys have deals that you want to develop out, even if we're not part of that deal, we'd be happy to facilitate any type of like introduction if you've got the deal and need somebody to help you with it. Any other questions for us? Okay, cool. Then we will end it here. Thank you guys so much. I can't believe that so many people jumped on here and spent this much time with us. It's so cool. It's fun to see everybody. You guys have such a good night.